Tonight on Mississippi Insight, the man tasked with turning around Jackson Public Schools, Dr. Errick Greene, on the 5-year plan to create a better JPS, the challenges he still faces, and the grade he gives himself after 1 year on the job. And the return of Mike Espy. The Democrat launches another Senate bid. Could we be looking at a rematch with Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith in 2020? Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us. Tonight we are talking education. Jackson Public Schools launched a 5-year plan to turn around the school district, and it's designed to go well beyond test scores. Joining me now in the studio is Dr. Errick Greene, Superintendent of Jackson Public Schools. It has been 1 year, thank you for joining us, since you took over as head of JPS. Where was the school district a year ago when you got started?
A year ago, well, thank you for having us here. A year ago, the school district was coming out of a few pretty powerful reports. One from MDE, the Mississippi Department of Education, another from the Council of Great City Schools, another from the Better Together Commission that commissioned a report, a study of the school system, and another with One Voice that did some canvassing. And from all of those reports, it was really clear that there were some major challenges. What many people had been feeling and kind of experiencing one-off, we had the data and the deeper studies and findings to indicate some major challenges within the district. And so once I was hired on, I was able to utilize those plans to really kind of jumpstart conversations with members of the team, with members of the board, members of the community, our scholars, all of those who have a stake in seeing JPS grow and thrive. And so we were in a really tough place, but one of the things that actually attracted me to Jackson and to Jackson Public Schools is that I didn't sense the need to come in and convince folks that big work needed to happen.
You're in Oklahoma. You see this opening. You see a district that's on possibility of a takeover.
Sure.
Why take on the challenge? Why apply for the job?
Sure. Well, by the time I interviewed, the governor and the mayor and our school board and Kellogg Foundation, they had already kind of formed this partnership in looking for and trying to craft this third way. They had already had the conversations around led and initiated by MDE and the superintendent that things needed to change, that we could not continue steady state with Jackson Public Schools. And so because that conversation had already started and they had already crafted the partnership and this third way for how we would rebirth JPS, I saw, while tons of challenges, I saw lots of opportunity and support to do the work that needs to be done. And I've continued to, in the year that I've been here, I've seen lots of that. And we continue to have our detractors and those who don't seem to believe that it can be done. But there are plenty more people who are, even today at lunch, we're constantly getting encouragement and folks who see the work that's happening and understand that this is a marathon. This is going to take some time.
When you first got here, you had to deal with a big crisis, and that was the band issue in Brookhaven.
Yes. And
that got national attention. How did you manage that? How did you deal with that? And I mean, did that kind of throw you back a little bit?
I'll admit it did. It did a little. I think more than anything, it just seemed to come out of nowhere. It was in my first week. It was I had just finished the first full working week, and so that all hit. And just trying to, one, really understand what were the intentions from our team and what was kind of the work of the young people, what was everyone's engagement and involvement in that. And then kind of unpeeling all of the, what are the intentions, what was the damage done, and along with that, how do we heal and repair? Because there was lots of challenges from many angles. At the end of the day, we've got to remember that we are educators. We're working with young people. While we have to model appropriate behaviors and decision making with them, we all need grace. When we make mistakes and when we do things that may be hurtful and a little left of center, we've got to figure out how we get back on track.
Let's talk about school security. With the recent shootings across the country, what are you all doing to make sure that the JPS schools are safe?
Yeah. So we're required to do a round of drills and trainings and that sort of thing around active shooters, any of the school-based crises. And so we've done that in our schools and continue to do that. We'll do another round in the next semester. We've also done a bit of work with our in-house school enforcement or campus enforcement team, just to kind of heighten awareness around some of the challenges, some of the signs of students being in distress and that sort of thing. We have ensured that, especially in our secondary schools with metal detectors and that sort of thing, that those are working and that our team is trained and that they are aware of the best ways to utilize those to ensure that we're increasing security in that way. Frankly, I like to think more about the preventive measures that are necessary to help young people make better choices. And so, as we've named, as a part of the strategic plan, and one of our core values is we build stronger relationships with young people. And as we teach more of our counselors and teachers and others within the schools some of the signs to look out for young people being in distress or depressed or any of that sort of thing, we can head off more of those challenges. So while we're increasing some of the tactical strategies that we use to be safe and to secure our schools a bit, the stronger, I believe, the stronger and the better money is on the relationships that we have with young people, helping the adults and other scholars to be more vigilant in what they see and naming and reporting what they see, so that if there's anything that seems suspicious and out of the way, that we're addressing that. We're monitoring social media and several other ways that we're just trying to keep eyes on to our schools and learning from, unfortunately, some of the situations and the crises that have happened across the country, to ensure that we're doing all we can.
What's your position on as far as guns in schools arming teachers or coaches as a way to protect against any intruders? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. We have law enforcement. We need to lean on law enforcement in terms of the guns and weapons. Mm-hmm. We need to do all we can to ensure that folks aren't bringing guns and weapons into the school, and so we've got the metal detectors and wands and bags being checked and that sort of thing. We've got a few additional strategies that we're looking to put in place in terms of cameras and that sort of thing, but we don't want to get into the place where we're arming teachers. Your job is to teach. Your job is to build a relationship with these young people and with their families, to create for them and with them a space where they feel safe, where they feel like they don't have to take such drastic measures because of bullying or feeling othered in any way. And let's allow the law enforcement to have those types of weapons.
All right, and we'll be right back, and we'll have more of our conversation with Dr. Greene right after this. And welcome back to Mississippi Insight. We're continuing our conversation with JPS Superintendent Dr. Errick Greene. You have a strategic plan that you've laid out for your team that you recently released. Talk about this, starting with innovative teaching and learning. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by innovative teaching and learning?
The plan is excellence for all. And so we've got to innovate on and think really creatively about what it means to educate all of our scholars, what it means, what their needs are, and how the things that we've done in the past either worked or didn't work. And where they didn't work or haven't worked, creating some and learning and adapting, as I've said before, adapting some of the practices and resources and tools and things to help each of our young people meet with great success.
You start out with a strong start. What do you mean by a strong start?
Strong start. We've got to start early with our young people, 3-4-year-olds. In pre-K and prepare them for great success even from kindergarten, let alone as they move on through their educational career. years. And so that's thinking more critically about the skills and knowledge that they need as they move into kindergarten, but as well the habits of mind. How do I feel about myself? What allows me to persevere through learning experiences so that I don't give up?
Talented and empowered teams, what does that mean?
We know that young people deserve the best and the brightest of teachers, of leaders, of counselors, all of those educators in the educational space and in their experiences throughout their schooling. And so we've got to ensure that we are attracting the best, that we're treating them well when we attract them and recruit them, that we all understand that we have to continue to grow and learn from the superintendent down and everyone in between, that we're all growing. And creating teams that work together and support one another and where we can learn from one another and continue to bring our very best, and that my best tomorrow is better than today.
Joyful learning environment?
Again, it's just super important that we enjoy being in the learning space. It shouldn't feel like work and a drag always. We've got to also feel some joy in the learning and rejoice and to celebrate. And even celebrate when we get something wrong or we miss something, because that's an opportunity to grow and come back even stronger the next time.
A culture of accountability and excellence.
And that's our commitment number 5. And we do call these commitments as opposed to priorities because we are committing ourselves to each of these. And so this 5th commitment is around, with all of the things that we've talked about, at the end of the day, we've got to show and prove. We've got to show it through the data. We've got to show it in the way that people talk about us as an educational system, the way that they talk about our resourcing and all of those things, the decisions that we make. And so that culture, creating not only the systems of accountability, but the culture where we want to hold ourselves accountable. We want to be held accountable, where we are looking for feedback to continue to grow, and not seeing accountability as a bad thing.
How will you track the progress?
We have within the plan, we have several targets that we've set for the 5-year, it's a 5-year plan. And each year we're setting some mile markers as we move towards those targets 5 years out. And so those include some academic targets on the state test, as well as targets for a grade level, 3rd grade in elementary, 8th grade in middle school, and algebra and English 2 in high school. We also have attendance targets, we've got behavior targets, and there's even a target around satisfaction. And so it would be great for us to have all of those academic targets, but if people don't feel good about their experiences with us, we've still missed the mark.
How will you make sure that it's transparent so the public knows what you're doing and how you've been successful?
Sure. So what are some of the improvements? Well, one that we're really pleased with, we're already seeing improvements in terms of our accountability ratings, or rating. We went from a rating of an F to a rating of D, and very, very close to a C. So we're excited to have seen that movement in the state's accountability system. That's nothing that we created, it's the state system, and so we feel good that we're showing some progress on the state's accountability system as well. We're also seeing increased percentages of our young people demonstrating performance and proficiency on the state test, which is hugely important. We've got to show progress academically. We've seen some decreases in behavior incidents. We're continuing to be challenged in terms of attendance and some of the issues around that, and we're obviously continue to work towards that, but also seeing some stability, some of the things that are not necessarily called out in the scorecard. Stability in our staffing, stability in our leadership, implementing, as I said, new curricular programs. Those are some of the things that they're really huge bodies of work. It's hard to quantify it, but it's something that we knew needed to be done, and we've been able to do that and to do that and get a lot of good feedback from our teams. In terms of communication, that remains a challenge for us, and I think probably for many school districts. There's so much that's happening that we want to put out there. We have a scorecard that we will be looking for ways to communicate it more readily to the larger district. and how we're meeting the specific targets on the scorecard. But as well, we use our social media, we use our website. Each of the schools has their own web page, and so they push out information about their schools and some of the specific accomplishments at the school sites. We obviously want to spend as much time with our friends in the media to share some of those accomplishments as well.
Tell us something about Dr. Errick Greene that we don't know about, or that's not in your biography. What don't we know about you that's not out there?
It would be hard for you to say something to which I cannot connect lyrics to a song. That's part of my superpower.
That's your superpower, right?
I love music. I've always loved music, and I can connect for most anything that someone says. I can connect a song to it.
I got you. So
don't test me.
So the karaoke, you win the karaoke there or something.
Maybe not.
I got
but
you.
I will bust out in song.
What are some of the success stories at the Jackson Public Schools that you would like to tell us about? Give me one or two right now that you can, since you've been there for the past year.
Sure. I am excited that we're starting to see some of the work in our the bond referendum. We're starting to see some new restrooms come online and pavements and repaired other public plumbing issues and some of the roofing issues. That's not the sexy work, but it's super important if you happen to be in that school. Again, we've increased our accountability rating. It's important to see that kind of progress, and we know that we're going to continue to see that progress. So excited to applaud the team around that. When I walk around our schools, I see teachers teaching, and they're teaching like their hair is on fire. And they're using these materials that we've purchased, and they're taking the feedback that they get from instructional coaches and from the principals and assistant principals to ensure that we're constantly getting better. We are seeing already on our benchmark assessments some continued improvement, academic improvement, so I'm excited for what we'll see on the state tests this year. We've done considerable work with our leadership team in the central office, and so we have folks in place to ensure that the various issues, operational issues, academic issues, public engagement issues, that those are addressed and that we're able to respond to those issues pretty quickly and be responsive in that way. So lots of things that we're excited about. I'm very happy to applaud our team and to point to so many folks who are just doing wonderful work.
Give yourself a grade for the first year that you've been there in JPS.
Jeez. So for the board members who are listening, I give myself an A. But for all of us who know that we've just got lots more work to do, I'll accept the D. I'll accept the D, knowing that we together have much more work to do. I don't win if my team is not winning. I don't win if our children are not winning. And so my grade will be what my district earns. So I accept.
Dr. Errick Greene, Superintendent of Jackson Public Schools, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
And we'll be hearing from you much more throughout the year.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And we'll be right back.
The D.
The 2019 election is just over a week behind us, and already the 2020 races are underway in Mississippi. Democrat Mike Espy is making another run for the United States Senate after coming close to winning the seat a year ago. Espy tells 12 News' Gerald Harris why he thinks the outcome will be different this time.
In a video announcement,
I was the first African American to represent Mississippi in the United States Congress since the Civil War era.
Mike Espy is going after the seat won by Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith over him in 2018.
We came so close in 2018. Join me, and this time we'll do it.
Secretary Espy said some mistakes in not having enough time to campaign prevented him from winning the last election.
I've got to go out with enough time now to go to every county and almost every area of Mississippi and talk to everybody about my vision for Mississippi. And now we have a year to do that, and I'm going to do it.
He also wants to raise equal to or more than $7.2 million he raised last time around and talk the issues on the campaign trail.
But we have to correct our healthcare system to make sure everybody, is comfortable that they have a doctor and that they have a rural hospital that's open. And that's why I think we need to keep the Medicaid money. I know that prescription drug costs are way too high. I know that college education now costs too much. I know that too many students are still in debt. And I know that we got to fix these crumbling roads and bridges.
He also pointed out the infamous public hanging comments, including Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith wearing Confederate soldier garments.
And she never really apologized for that. And I think that was wrong. We do not need the kind of senator representing Mississippi with that kind of image when we are moving forward as a state into a new century. So we just don't need all of that. It's so negative.
SB lost against Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith 53 to 46% in the 2018 special Senate election. In Jackson, Gerald Harris, 12 News.
Well, in a statement released through her campaign spokesman, Hyde-Smith said that she looks forward to discussing her vision to move Mississippi and the country forward. Thanks to Superintendent Dr. Errick Greene for joining us. For Gerald Harris, I'm Byron Brown. Make it a good night.